All right, good morning, Gator Nation. I'm Dylan Denmark. That is Graham Marsh for this episode of Denmark and Marsh. Graham, we broke the top 50 in recruiting, baby. Let's celebrate.
That's
Pop your
right.
bottles.
Pop the
Drink your
champagne.
Hennessy at 8:30 in the morning, baby. Let's go.
Pop the champagne. Take your shots. Hit the bars right now at 8:30 on a Tuesday. Um, it's time.
Dude. Yeah, we spoke, what was it, Thursday on the 247 Sports. Florida was 62. And like we said, this is about the time where Billy Napier starts getting his recruits together and he starts getting hot on the recruiting streak. And since then, they've picked up 3 recruits, one being a tight end from Hawaii. They got a big offensive tackle. And most importantly, they got a pretty good athlete who plays both sides of the ball. And he had over 1,000 yards receiving and 1,000 yards rushing in the state of Florida for Buchholz. Justin Williams, who's not bad. I mean, Graham, if you're in the state of Florida and you're playing 6A football, I think that's what Buchholz is, 6A. And you have over 1,000 yards receiving and rushing, and your team won the region. It's pretty good in my book.
Yeah, that ain't bad. And he's from Buchholz. Obviously, anybody that's familiar with Buchholz knows that they're right there in Gainesville. So, as far as I'm concerned, any athlete that's worth their salt there should be committing to Florida pretty much on the spot once they're a junior. So yeah, man, they got more athletes. They already got a lot of athletes on the roster, older guys and younger guys. They are clearly looking towards building the trenches. I'm kind of looking through this list, making sure I have everything. Yeah, the tight end. I got to figure out how to pronounce the last name. I think I got the first name. Kekua has got to be the first name.
I'm gonna go with Aumua.
Kekua Aumua. Is that what we're going with? If somebody knows and puts in the comments and tells us to pronounce it differently, by all means, please do. Tight end is an interesting position. We talked about that last week a little bit. Chancellor Campbell, the offensive lineman, you're right. He's a big kid. He's 6'8", 295 right now. You imagine by the time he gets to college, he'll be well into the threes. By the time he's wearing a Gator uniform and playing on Saturdays, but yeah, man, the class is coming together nicely. You expect, right now they only got 2 4-stars according to 247, but we know how this works, and we talked about this last week, and it's already happening. It came to fruition last week. Billy Napier loves to do the Urban Meyer and collect those silent commits, and then use that momentum going forward. So typically, I mean, anybody that tracks it and has tracked it since Billy Napier's been the coach knows that Billy Napier rarely gets just one commit at a time. I mean, how often, Dylan, do you see when when news drops that Florida got a commit, be it a 3-star, 4-star guy? Later in the day, it might be a 5-star guy. Later in the day, it might be another 4-star guy, and then the next day, it's somebody else. And it typically comes in bunches of 3 to 4 guys at once. Because Billy Napier always likes to keep his cards close to his vest in that way, which I can appreciate and think it's been successful for him. We'll see. You were right last week. You hit it on the head when you said this is the time of the year. This is the time of year a lot of the seniors especially like to recruit because they want to be like to commit, I should say, because they want to be committed before they start their senior season. That said, teams don't stop recruiting them after they start. And, just because their recruitment is 100% shut down doesn't ever necessarily mean anything. So I think, Dylan, we're going to really know by like September, October. We'll have the bones of it by July, but I'm still they're at 50 now. They'll finish what? Especially if they're good and having a good season, they'll finish 5, 6 probably.
Yeah, they'll be right around there, right around 10, like they have been in the last couple of years. I mean, right now at 50, the team's right above them. This is on 247. Is Northwestern, Boise. I mean, Alabama right now is 46. Does anybody believe that Alabama is going to be finishing in the mid 40s
Right.
in recruiting? I mean, Alabama's got 1 5-star and 5 4-stars. Florida's got, according to 247, 3 4-stars and 4 3-stars. So, it's all going to play out here in the next couple of weeks. And like I said last week, like 80% of the guys in high school football now they are committed to a school verbally. Obviously, it's not official, but they're committed to a school before they start their senior year of high school football. Just because of how recruiting is now. Because if they're not going to fill out their spots up in recruiting, the schools are going to hit the transfer portal. And every school does it differently, but some schools I know for a fact they will tell guys, all right, we're giving away 15, 20 scholarships, and the first whatever four that commit to the receiver spot, we're only going to take four. So you better commit now and have your spot, because if you wait, we're not going to have a spot for you. So that's the time right now in June. Why everybody usually commits pretty mid-summer, June and July, because by the time August and September hits, they're playing high school football. And then, things might change, obviously, with, NIL and money gets changed because, school's offering you $2 million, we'll give you $2.1 million. And, the 0.1 is, it just changes everything for whatever reason. Don't chase the money, kids. Chase good programs, good coaching, and the money will follow eventually. But anywho,
Dylan, do you know who's in the top 10 right now?
I know USC, Notre Dame are like 1-2. Clemson's up there. Georgia's probably up there.
This team is number 8 right now.
Can I get a conference?
Big Ten.
Maryland.
Rutgers.
Hey,
recruiting powerhouse. Rutgers.
New Jersey staying hot right now, bro. What are you talking about?
And as we know, typically when Florida has these big time recruiting battles and they're trying to get the best players in the country, it usually comes down to Florida and Rutgers. Not worried about Miami, not worried about Georgia, not worried about LSU. I'm worried about Rutgers. So yeah, man, and you know why? Part of why they're number 8? They have 18 3-stars right now.
God bless. That's a lot.
That is a lot. And okay, so Dylan, of those 18, it's June. And this is not a Rutgers podcast. I'm just saying this to make a larger point. Of those 18 3-stars, okay, it's June 10th, 2025, Dylan. By early signing day, how many of those 18 3-stars will be signing with Rutgers?
I'd probably, on the good end, I'd probably say about 13. On the bad end, probably 7.
Okay. So I'll split the difference with you. Let's call it 10. Okay. Let's say 10 of those 3-stars commit to Rutgers this year. Fast forward a full year. How many of those 10 will have hit the portal?
Oh, half.
At least half, right?
Half. I guaranteed half.
And again, this is not a Rutgers podcast. This is just to make the larger point of if you are the type of person that's getting anxious in June, don't be that person. And again, Dylan hit the nail on the head. Like a lot of these guys are, because they do want to try and be committed before they start their senior season. A lot of these guys are really hitting recruiting super hard right now. So you're going to see, and we see this every year, Hayes Fawcett's going to be busy in the next month. You know what I mean? This is when all these guys typically want to give those commitments. So Florida's going to – they always do this. Florida's going to shoot up in the ranks. My favorite thing about Billy as a recruiter relative to the old guy that's currently coaching the University of Las Vegas is Billy is very much a quality over quantity recruiter. Which I can very much appreciate. He's always leaving those spots open for the Dallas Wilsons of the world. We saw how last minute that was, and then we saw in the orange and blue game why they made the time and the space, right? So, normally it doesn't always work this way, but normally you'd rather take your chances with one more 5-star or 2 more 4-stars than just go ahead and sign the 4 3-stars or whatever that are willing to sign right now and see what happens with potentially getting extra blue chip players that are going to truly be special. Because at the University of Florida, at Rutgers, it's great to sign those 3-stars and see what happens, and hopefully a couple of them pan out. At the University of Florida, you're expected to beat Georgia annually. At the University of Florida, you're expected to play Texas this year and at least compete, if not win, in the swamp, right? You're expected to go to LSU and win.
And then follow it up, play Miami and win.
Right. And that ain't getting it done with these three. Florida could sign 23 stars tonight if they wanted to. And they'd shoot up to, number 6 or whatever, but that's not what they're in it for. They're in it to get guys that LSU's offensive lineman can't block. They're in it to get shut down corners, right? So, and it seems like they're headed that way again.
Yeah. All right. Well, Florida probably get a couple more commits here in the next week or so. Just like a lot of the top schools, a lot of official visits are rolling in. I'm sure a lot of Gator Nation is seeing the clips and the videos of the pictures and stuff going around that are going on with the official visits. So we'll keep in tune with that as we go. But Graham, we haven't really talked much about the world of college football as of late. It looks like the Supreme Court or whatever, the judge passed that now the colleges can pay the athletes. So that is going to happen coming up this season. Has nothing to do with NIL. NIL is its own entity. NIL is a booster club or a fan can pay a player. Now the schools can pay the players, which 90% of that money is going to go to the football and basketball athletes. But Graham, I want to get into the new college football playoff format that's going to start potentially next season. This season, it changed this year. It just escaped my mind. They're staying with a 12-team playoff for this year. And they're going to do straight seeding. It's not going to be your playoff, your conference winners getting the automatic 1, 2, 3, 4. That's going to go straight seeding across the board, 1 through 12. Next season is the big question. What are they going to do? Are they going to move to 14? Are they going to move to 16? Are they going to keep the 5 conference champions with 11 at large? Are they going to go all at large? I think they will do the 5 conference champions and the 11 at large. If it were me, I would just do the 16 at large because I think they're going to go 16. 16's more money. I don't think they're going to go 14. And we'll know here relatively the next couple of months. But I think that's what they're going to do. They're going to go 5 conference champions and 11 at large for the 16-team playoff starting next season. Graham, what is your thought on what you think? What do you want to happen with the college football playoff for the next couple of years starting next season?
My initial thought is you're wrong, Dylan Denmark. They are not going to go with conference champions and then just 11 at large. If you believe that Gregory William Sankey, I don't know his real middle name, I'm making that up. If you believe Greg Sankey is going to walk out of that meeting without the SEC having more than one auto bid, you're crazy.
So what do you think they do?
I think that it's going to be the conference winners they're still going to get in, obviously, as they should. I think everybody realistically, every reasonable person believes that if you win the respective conferences that are in this dance, then you should be allowed to get an automatic bid. I think we all agree with that. We didn't like the seeding last year. That was the main thing we weren't cool with. Boise State being seeded higher than Georgia didn't make any sense. Or who were they seeded?
State.
Ohio. Yeah, sorry, Ohio State. That's what I meant. Yeah, State. We all agree with that. Anyways, I believe the SEC and the Big Ten are going to come away with more than just their conference winner getting an auto bid. I believe the SEC is going to have at least 2, if not 4. Probably not 4. That's probably a little bit extreme. I honestly think I was listening to Andy Staples from On3 talk about this. For the Big Ten, it might be different. The Big Ten, it probably behooves them to get as many slots for the Big Ten as they possibly can. And the only way you're going to do that is working with the SEC and probably getting at best a fair trade-off between the SEC and making it equal. If you're the SEC, though, Dylan, are you maybe better? Let's say you get 2 auto bids. Let's say you get the conference winner and one other team. With how good the SEC tends to be annually, are you better off making the rest of it at large because you'll probably end up getting more than your auto bids would have gotten you anyways?
I probably, if you're thinking of Greg Sankey and you're saying I want to get the most SEC teams in, one of the models they threw out there was get 4 SEC automatic, 4 Big Ten automatic, 2 ACC, 2 Big Ten, 1 G5,
I
which
mean,
is
two
your
Big
Boise.
12.
Yep, 2 Big 12.
Yeah.
and then 3 at large. That would probably be the best suit if you want to get as many SEC teams, because you would have the 4 automatics, and you would think one of those at large would be the SEC. Because, I mean, if you think of the rankings last year, if you go top 16, it would be it would have been Georgia, it would have been Texas,
Yes.
it would have been Ole Miss definitely, and it probably would have been
South Carolina.
maybe South Carolina would have been one. Alabama possibly would have been right on that bubble. So that'd be 5.
You'd have had South Carolina or Bama get the last auto spot, and then in one of the at-larges, the other one probably gets that too. Last year, the SEC probably would have got 5 teams in, realistically, at least 4.
Yeah, so I don't really care about the playoff system, because whatever they do, I'm just going to say whatever and move on. I'd rather have the at-larges over the conference champions. I think having an automatic conference champion is a little crazy to me, because
see that I disagree with. I don't agree with you on that.
So I just don't think that. I mean, last year the Big 12, it came down to 4 teams in the final 2 weeks of the season. Having the automatic G5, whatever. But I mean, the ACC, I just hate that a team can go. You can be in a bad conference. You can be 8-4, 9-3, realistically 9-3, and then you can have a really great game in that conference championship and be an automatic bid.
But you have to. It's not awesome for that specific purpose, but you have to avoid 2023 Florida State. You can't have a world where just because of what we might deem to be an inferior conference, if somebody goes undefeated, they win every game and they win their conference, they still don't get invited to the dance. You can't have that.
Yeah, but that's not going to happen with it. With it moving on to 12 or 16 or 14, whatever it is, that's not going to happen.
Well, yeah, it wouldn't happen now with an undefeated. You're right. But the equivalent of that would be like a 2-loss ACC team or something now. And look, at the end of the day, when the season and when conference championship weekend is over and we have those results in and it's time to materialize the college football playoff and what it looks like, I totally get it. Like, there are conference winners that can't hold a candle to the 3rd or 4th best team in the SEC or the Big Ten on any given year. That's happened more than once in college football. It's going to continue to probably happen. That said, I have always been a firm believer, especially with the expanded playoff. You have to give these teams that are in these conferences that are perceived to be the conferences that are part of the big dance. You have to give those teams an objective goal when they kick the season off, that if they do this, nobody can keep them out. No amount of politics can keep them out. I've always believed in that. The 4-team was inherently always flawed because you had a 4-team playoff with 5 power conferences. That never made sense. That was always a bad model. And so even now that you have more slots, I still believe that conference championship is the one way that you can say to Boise State, you can say to Wake Forest, these teams are going to realistically make the playoff any given year. And even if they do, like Boise State last year, none of us believe they're going to go win the national championship. I understand that. But the point is, you have to be able to fill that program when the season starts. There is a path. And you like college basketball, it's the same thing, right? You win your conference, you make the tournament. Nobody believes that the winner of the AAC is going to win the national championship in basketball, but they still have a chance, right? So I'm a firm believer. It sounds like you are not.
No, all I care about moving forward in the next couple of years is having quality college football games week in and week out, getting rid of Florida playing the Citadel and Mercer and Jacksonville State, all the Long Island games that Florida's playing week one. We've got to get rid of these games and play quality opponents week in and week out, because I get tired of the college football schedule, the way it sets up, and I know there's no commissioner and it's hard to do this, but having week one be fantastic, and then week two having one good game, and then week three having maybe 2 or 3 good games before we get to conference play.
You have the great kickoff classic week, and then it feels like another month until you get the games again.
It's just a huge letdown. I mean, Brian Kelly's thrown out, have the SEC play 9 games and then potentially play a Big Ten game. Everybody plays one Big Ten game in the SEC. That's fine for a year, but I don't want that to be every year, because then you're getting rid of a lot of the games like the Florida Miami. Because you got to think, okay, if we're going 9 SEC and you have a lot of the SEC, ACC rivalries, Florida, Florida State, South Carolina, Clemson, Georgia, Georgia Tech, and then you're going to add another Big Ten game, okay, that's fine. But now you can't rotate that other game with other opponents to, go home and away. I'd be fine with it, but I wouldn't want to sign a 10-year contract, if that makes sense. I would want to do that, in a short term. I just want to see big teams play my favorite school, with it being different. I want to see a USC one time play a home and away, and an Oregon play home and away, or I would say, Texas is going to come to Florida this year. Oklahoma is going to come to Florida eventually. Michigan, be one. They're in the Big Ten. Just different teams, and not it be permanent. I'd rather have a rotation among good teams, week in and week out, instead of playing a G5.
It just has to be uniform. And the problem, I wholeheartedly agree with you, and I think anybody that is a college football fan and when the season kicks off in late August through the rest of the year wants to watch good games just like you. I totally agree. The issue is, for forever, that's never been uniform across the board, and the playoff system has never rewarded teams for actually going out and doing that, right? You can, especially if you play in the SEC, so you already play a difficult conference schedule. No one's questioning your strength of schedule if you play in the SEC, and then you're playing your 8 conference games. If you schedule nothing but cupcakes outside of that and you win all those games, but then somebody else in the SEC schedules a home and home with Oregon, and they, have to go to Eugene week 1 or whatever, or play a kickoff classic against Oregon week 1, and that team loses. Fast forward to the end of the year when they're putting the playoff together, the team that scheduled Oregon will get punished for having a loss, versus the team that just played the Citadel and beat them by 100 will get credit for winning. So for forever, we've always said, why don't these teams schedule more hard opponents? Why do these teams schedule blah, blah, blah? Because there's not a competitive reward to it. Those teams don't get competitively rewarded for that. So there's never been a motivation to. There's never been a reason to. Now, if you were to do more like what you're saying, Dylan, and you were to, I agree with you on the I think the best way to do this. What if we could do this for the next 2 years? We say, okay, the SEC and the Big 12 are going to do an SEC Big 12 challenge, and they're all going to have a week where they all play each other. And the next year we're going to do it again, and the home and away teams are going to flip or whatever. Or you just play an entirely different opponent, however they want to schedule it, whatever. And the Big Ten is going to do the same thing with the ACC. And then after 2 years, we're going to do that. And the SEC is going to do the ACC, the Big Ten, whatever. You get what I'm saying? Like 2 to 3 years, you mix it up, so it's not like you're getting stuck with the same couple of opponents every time. But you make the whole country do it. That's what matters. You have to make everybody do it. Okay, we want to do this? Well, the Mountain West, you guys are in this too, or whatever. Like y'all got to play more quality opponents. You know what I mean? You can't just make Alabama do it, but Missouri doesn't have to, right? It's got to be a more uniform thing, and we got to figure out a way. And that would give us a better sample size when it is time to select those at-larges, right? Because you've seen these teams play more out. That's one of the biggest issues that's always been with the playoff selection committee is the conferences don't play each other enough. So we have this idea of how good the SEC is, or we have this idea of how good the Big 10 or the Big 12 is, but these teams haven't played each other, so we don't really know. We just think they're better.
Yeah, I think the SEC will go to 9. We're going to know here in the next month or so. We're going to know before the season starts.
I think they will too.
And them going to 9 is going to dictate what the college football playoff, how they, one, how many teams they put in, and two, how they're going to see the playoff starting next season moving forward. So we'll see how that rolls out. So, yeah, Graham, that's about all I got.
Florida's going to get really screwed by moving to 9 games, by the way.
Yes.
All of the teams that have those ACC annual rivalries that they play, they're the teams, because Florida has always kind of effectively played 9 conference games because Florida State's not in the SEC, but Florida State is every bit as competitive as a lot of the SEC teams that Florida would play any given year in that 9th slot. So now Florida's going to have to play 10 competitive games instead of 9.
Well,
and never mind, like you're saying, never mind if they schedule Miami or we do this Big 10 challenge or whatever.
And there's a reason why Florida and Texas A&M have played as many times as they have since A&M got in the SEC and Georgia only played them 1 time.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, there's a reason why, because Florida's logo carries a lot of weight on TV. So, all right, Graham, I got to roll. Good talk. And probably by what day is it today? Tuesday. Probably by next Tuesday, we'll probably have a couple more commits.
Yes, sir.
And,
that's right.
We'll be throwing some vodka Sprites when we crack the top 40 in recruiting, baby.
If Florida's not number 1 overall in recruiting next week, sound the alarms.
All right, Graham. I'll see you.
Peace.